Shalom, Israel, Most High in Christ. Bless all praises to the Most High in the name of His Son, His Word, Jesus the Christ. Back at it again with something else that they don't want to talk about, and that is the history of Valentine's Day. Of course, it's on history.com. And I like going here just because Esau will sit here and tell you about this stuff. You just got to look it up. They ain't going to sit here and bring it to you. You have to look it up. And I'm skipping down here to the origin of Valentine's Day. We're going to go back up to the rest of it here in a second. All right. It says, while some believe that Valentine's Day is celebrated in the middle of February to commemorate the anniversary of Valentine's death or burial, which probably occurred around AD 270, others claim that the Christian church may have decided to place St. Valentine's feast day in the middle of February in an effort to Christianize the pagan celebration of Lupercalia. And as you have seen with my Christmas and New Year's origins videos, you see that that's what happened. That's what the so-called Christian church, these fake Christians, I'm just going to tell it how it is, that's what they did. They Christianized pagan festivals and celebrations. All right? In an attempt to keep you in sin. That's what it was all about. Lupercalia. And we're going to get into Lupercalia right now. Celebrated at the Ides of February, or February 15th, Lupercalia was a fertility festival dedicated to Faunus, the Roman god of agriculture, as well as to the Roman founders, Romulus and Remus. So, when you celebrate Valentine's Day, you worshiping the Roman god Faunus, the god of agriculture. Also, Romulus and Remus, these fictionalized, these deified founders of Rome. To begin the festival, members of the Luperci, an order of Roman priests, would gather at a sacred cave where the infants Romulus and Remus, the founders of Rome, were believed to have been cared for by a she-wolf, or lupa. That's why it's called Lupercalia, is because the wolf in Latin is lupa, or lupus. The priests would sacrifice a goat for fertility and a dog for purification. They would then strip the goat's hide into strips, dip them into the sacrificial blood, and take to the streets, gently slapping both women and crop fields with the goat hide. Far from being fearful, Roman women welcomed the touch of the hides because it was believed to make them more fertile in the coming year. And it was like it was basically a sex celebration. That's what they were doing. All right. Later in the day, according to legend, all the young women in the city would place their names in a big urn. The city's bachelors would each choose a name and become paired for the year with his chosen woman. These matches often ended in marriage. And see, that's where your Valentines and your Valentine cards and all that comes from. All right? It's from Lupercalia, a Roman pagan sex celebration of fertility festival. That's what it was all about. It was all about fornication. It was all about idolatry. It was all about wickedness. That's what Valentine's Day comes from. All right. So where does it get the name Valentine's from? I will start with the legend of Saint Valentine. Where did Valentine's Day originate from? The history of the holiday and the story of its patron saint is shrouded in mystery. That's because I'm gonna let you know right now. That's because a lot of the stories of Valentine or Valentinus, as we're about to read, are mythologized. They didn't really happen. We do know that February has long been celebrated as a month of romance, and that St. Valentine's Day, as we know it today, contains vestiges of both Christian and ancient Roman tradition. But who was St. Valentine? How did he become associated with this ancient rite? The Catholic Church recognizes at least 3 different saints named Valentine or Valentinus, all of whom were martyred, right? So did these people actually exist? Yeah, probably. Valentine and Valentinus were probably actually real people who, it was probably a common name in ancient Rome, right? One legend contends that Valentine was a priest who served during the 3rd century in Rome when Emperor Claudius II decided that single men made better soldiers than those with wives and families. He outlawed marriage for young men. Valentine, realizing the injustice of the decree, defied Claudius and continued to perform marriages for young lovers in secret, right? So this is like the secret marriages myth. When Valentine's actions were discovered, Claudius ordered that he be put to death. Still, others insisted it was St. Valentine of Terni, a bishop who was the true namesake of the holiday. He too was beheaded by Claudius outside Rome. So here you have a couple different Valentines who were beheaded by Claudius, right, for whatever reasons. Other stories suggest that Valentine may have been killed for attempting to help Christians escape harsh Roman prisons, where they were often beaten and tortured. According to one legend, an imprisoned Valentine actually sent the first Valentine greeting himself after he fell in love with a young girl, possibly the jailer's daughter, who visited him during his confinement. Before his death, it is alleged that he wrote her a letter signed "From your Valentine," an expression that is still in use today. Although the truth behind the Valentine legends is murky, the stories all emphasize his appeal as sympathetic, heroic, and most importantly, romantic figure, right? So, let me finish this sentence. By the Middle Ages, perhaps thanks to his reputation, Valentine would become one of the most popular saints in England and in France. So, what the Catholic Church did, they had these myths and these legends form around these beheadings of these men named Valentine. So then they canonized him, they made him a saint, and they said, oh, a lot of these myths and legends have a lot to do with romance and fertility. Let's incorporate that with the romance and the fertility associated with Lupercalia. That's what they did. This is crafty counsel. All right. That's what this is. That's what this is. This is crafty counsel to keep God's people in sin. And let me just go ahead and get that in Judith. Because this is what they do. This is what they plot to do. Judith 5 and verse 20. Now therefore, my Lord and Governor. Now this is the other nations counseling on what to do with the Israelites. Now therefore, my Lord and Governor, if there be any error against this people, and they sin against their God, let us consider that this shall be their ruin, and let us go up, and we shall overcome them. See, that's why they have to incorporate these holidays and make you think that they're Christian, make you think that they are of God, because they want you to sin. They want you to serve other gods, and that's what this is. So I got this here in Exodus 20, starting with verse 1. And God spake all these words, saying, I am the Lord thy God, which have brought thee out of the land of Egypt, out of the house of bondage. Thou shalt have no other gods before me. And that's what this is. This is Lupercalia. This is worshiping the Roman god Faunus as well as the Roman founders. That's what Valentine's is about. That's what it's really about. That's the origins of it. It's a fertility festival. All right. And on the subject of these fertility festivals, y'all letting y'all kids have Valentines and things like that. This is Leviticus 19 and verse 29. Do not prostitute thy daughter to cause her to be a whore. That's what you're doing. Whenever you just let these kids go out on Valentine's Day, go out all the time. What do you think these kids are doing? The same thing you wanted to do when you was a kid. They're out here fornicating. Lest the land fall to whoredom and the land become full of wickedness. You see that right there? So that's what's happened today. The land has fell to whoredom. It has become full of wickedness. All right. And I want to touch on this real quick because Valentine's Day and the U.S. in general, modern day in general, likes to propagate the girlfriend-boyfriend type situation, type relationship. That's not biblical. All right. Boyfriend and girlfriend is just an opportunity to fornicate without marriage. That's all it is. That's all it is. So here's Exodus 22 and verse 16. And if a man entice a maid that is not betrothed and lie with her, meaning he spit game and have sex with her, right? He give her the riz, as people call it today. He shall surely endow her to be his wife, meaning make all the provisions necessary to marry that woman. With God, there is no sex outside of marriage. It's either you get married, then have sex, or you have sex and then you got to get married. There's no fornicating with God. All right. So I got this here in 2 Timothy chapter 2, just to let you know the New Testament say the same thing. It ain't no difference. Flee also youthful lusts, right? He said youthful right there because it's real big. Valentine's Day is real big amongst teenagers and young 20s, right? That's where Valentine's is real big. But follow righteousness, meaning keep the commandments, faith, charity, peace with them that call on the Lord out of a pure heart. You see that right there? So if you call on the Lord out of a pure heart, you ain't going to be celebrating Valentine's Day. It's not biblical. It's not godly. It's unrighteous. It's idolatry. That's what it is. So with that, I'm going to close it out here in Colossians 2. All right. Be not deceived, y'all. Everything, every holiday that is of the world is not of God. As a matter of fact, let's get that first. 1 John 2 and verse 15. Love not the world, neither the things that are in the world. If any man love the world, the love of the Father is not in him. For all that is in the world, the lust of the flesh, the lust of the eyes. That's what Valentine's Day is built around. It's built around lust. And the pride of life is not of the Father, but is of the world. And the world passes away, and the lust thereof. All this is going to pass away. All this is going to be gone. But he that doeth the will of God abideth forever. The kingdom's going to be forever. Righteousness is immortal. All right. So with that, I'm going to close it out here with Colossians 2 and 8. Beware lest any man spoil you through philosophy and vain deceit, after the tradition of men. That's all Valentine's Day is. It's just a tradition of men. After the rudiments of the world and not after Christ. You see that right there? It's not godly. So with that, hope you learned something. Don't be celebrating these wicked holidays, man. It's all evil. It's all wicked. I say shalom. Most High in Christ bless.